I'm Earl Brown, and welcome to another episode of Tell the Story, a Jazz Journeys production. It's been said throughout the ages that we're all on a journey to uncover and tell a story. A story that might be fresh in our minds, or one that has been left in stones, or lost with traces in sand. Maybe it's staring at us in mirrors as we try to find ourselves.
Yeah, so when I left corporate America, I started off a new year. It was January 2020, and I decided that I was just going to go for the vision that I had for my own art studio. And so from that, I used some of my savings that I had from the job, my previous job.
Can I stop you for a minute?
Yeah.
Did you say 2020?
2020, yes, January 2020.
You could not have chosen.
Yes,
Oh my
it's funny because everyone laughs, but this was right before that, right? This was at least 2 or 3 months before COVID, but I couldn't have known what was going to happen, but I did know that I was going to, I'm like, okay, I was given this chance, and I'm not going to miss it, right? January 2020, I hosted my own paint party or paint and sip, if you want to call it that, with my close friends. A few of my close friends, just to practice, just to like get the feel of it. And we had a few people actually attend, right? Because we all invited like some of our own people to just attend. That was just a practice. I call that a practice party, really. I did 2 of those, and then one of my friends also has a after school program, and she allowed me to bring art in after school there, as well as doing paint parties with her after school program. And that was in February. So it took me a month, like about a month and a half to get all that going. But and that was my first thing. I was there for a few weeks, and then middle of March, going into April, we are at COVID.
So now that I think about it, the fact that you had done some virtual work prior,
Mm-hmm.
I guess in essence, it prepared you a little bit. Nothing could have prepared us fully for COVID,
Sure.
but it prepared you a little bit because it gave you experience with virtual. But when COVID hit, eventually, how did that impact and affect what you were trying to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, the world was shut down for a while. I was in New York City, so it took a little longer. They were a little more reluctant, right, to shut everything down as quickly than some other areas, which is, perfectly fine. So I was probably closed down for a few months. Because also too, we weren't, you weren't allowed to host a certain type of events. And then thinking about the number, because remember that mattered, like how many people were going to be there, if it was going to be indoor or outdoor, there was a lot of restrictions, right? So I wasn't able to actually host events for a little while. And then once I was able to, which was about, I would probably say about June, July, we were outdoors. And that's where a lot of this started. So I already had my supplies, right, that from my 2 test parties, and I started showing up outdoors.
So you took something that was a negative, that we can't meet inside and in close quarters and things of that sort,
Mm-hmm.
and took it outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And take us from there. So now everybody's shut in, but you're doing events outside.
Yeah.
How was that working?
So I would say what it started from was I was a part of a community group. It's called the Black Resource Network. And we started doing mobile pop-up pantries. And so what that looked like was, while I wasn't working, by the way, so while I wasn't working, this was for about 4 months, I was volunteering myself. And so we were boots on the ground outside, having trucks that were shipping from down south Florida, driving up and sharing with us fresh produce and fresh fruits and vegetables that we can give out to the community. So after doing that initiative for the few months that I was able to, which one I was grateful because it gave me the chance to show up for others during COVID where no one knew what to do and how to navigate it. Um, it gave me a chance to be close with um, a community group that, believe the same things I believe, that we should, help one another and just all that kind of stuff. And so once we finished that program, that is when I started showing up. Yeah, outside.
If you were to look back and reflect on some of your most memorable events, your most impactful events, the events that are just really stood out with you, what would those events be?
So I think that those events would be the ones the ones that um we had during that time outdoors. So what it would look like is I would have my supplies. We would set up the easels. We would set up the canvases, brushes, paints, and all of that. And then um, we would probably be in partnership with other community orgs, hosting large, community days. Like that's normally what it would be like. And so we did a few of those throughout 2020, 2021. And the reason why that was so impactful is because people of all ages were welcome and able to come. So you would see families that were coming up with the kids, right? Um, Along with the parents that were all sitting and painting together or sitting and engaging together. Or it would be like two strangers that didn't know each other, but they just happened to sit together, or near each other during those moments. And those were the ones.
So your events were not and are not limited to young people.
Mhm.
It appears to be inclusive of young and older
Mhm.
and people from different backgrounds.
Yes, exactly. I think that um, I don't want it to be where it's just for kids. Kids are, I won't say always, but because I think kids now are more technology based. But it's the concept of saying I don't want to restrict it to just children because adults need it just as much. Yeah.
Seen where you and your organization has received numerous awards.
Mhm.
Tell me about some of those awards.
Okay, so I'll tell you about one that is really touched my heart. This was during COVID, and one of the awards was it's basically a community service award for like doing good, like something like that. And basically, we ran a program for it was a summer camp program, and I was able to bring art therapy to the youth. They were young adults. Um, Once a week where they were able to paint and express themselves through art. And we were able to win the award because we did it with the American Legion and or in partnership with them. And I was grateful because it not only helped the kids to see and gain discipline because American Legion is teaching structure, military structure, right? But it's also the idea and concept that they were able to have this expression, this art. Some of the kids, wrote their own poems and was able to turn it into art on the canvas, right? Or create their own song, right? Um, of course, painting, because it's always my favorite. But just recognizing how art can now start to show up in their lives and how they could actually use it as a benefit to them. And that I think that was one of the programs that was near to my heart because I got to work with them one-on-one for an extended amount of time, right? Because it was a summer camp program. I think it was 8 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, but it gave me that chance to see them grow and develop and mature over the course of the summer.
Now, you mentioned earlier that your organization is divided into two separate parts, so to speak.
Mhm.
One is mobile arts, and the other is creative wellness.
Mhm.
Um, Help me understand the difference between the two and what you're actually doing with each aspect of it.
Sure. So with the mobile arts, a part of that is more about just accessibility and taking the art studio to people, right? So it's that concept of bringing the art studio to the communities or to, whatever space it is that I'm in. I'm bringing those supplies, I'm bringing all those materials. And so with creative wellness, what it does is it teaches you how your creativity is a part of your own wellness. So we talk about mental wellness, we talk about emotional wellness, but now it's recognizing how the significance of creativity is also something that helps to contribute to that. And you using your creative abilities, whether it's culinary arts, it's music, it's whether it's expressive art or visual art, whatever form of art you decide you want to include in it, but it helps you by way of wellness as well. And I think that oftentimes creativity is not really seen in that way. And so with the Creative Wellness Hub, I have started to develop programming around that, curriculum around that teaches that creativity is healing, that creativity is wellness. But then what does that look like for you? What does that mean, right? So you do have to break it down a little bit, right? So that they can have that understanding. But when people experience it, they can never forget it. And so that's always the point of it. Now, when I'm doing mobile art, most people know me for paint and sips. Like that is where I've interacted with them, or if they've done an event with me in that way. But then it's like, all right, let's go a little deeper, right? So after we do the paint and sip, which again, it's still impactful on its own. But then now let's talk about something a little deeper than that. How do we actually now take what you've learned here and reproduce it? How do you now take what you've learned here and apply it to your own life, right? And so those are the things that when you're thinking about the Creative Wellness Hub, that's the portion of that. And, I have different parts of the Creative Wellness Hub as well. And eventually it'll all be running on full capacity. I run everything myself now, but eventually it will have, the extensions will have, their own like staff and all that. So they'll all be running at the same time, which will be amazing. But in the meantime, still just building.
Is there anything else you'd like to say in parting?
So I'm so grateful to have met you. Excited that you have just shared your wisdom so openly. And in 2025, I am looking forward to the future collaborations that we'll get to do for the youth in the community.
You've been listening to episode 2 of Tell the Story with Tahina Marcette from Marcette Studios. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button and tell a friend to do the same. By the way, if you like what you're seeing and hearing, be sure to check out some of our other podcasts on this channel.